Joseph Mankiewicz was one of only a handful of Hollywood writers lucky enough to become a writer-director, and thus able to shepherd his projects from conception to completion. A Letter to Three Wives, one of his earlier efforts, announces its literary and dramatic sophistication from virtually the first frame, and the title succinctly encapsulates the overall action. The three women in question receive a note from a fourth, Addie Ross, who narrates the complicated unfolding but is never seen. Addie's letter claims that she has left town with one of their husbands. The story proceeds in flashback as each wife frets whether she might be the abandoned spouse. The characters and situation are drawn with convincing detail and some complexity. The sexual and class dynamics between the women and their husbands are depicted without sentimentality or easy identification. Each scene is shaped for maximum narrative and emotional impact, with the important dramatic points emphasized enough to register, but without underlining or moralizing, and often with a good deal of humor. There's also considerable cinematic sophistication to match the verbal fireworks, such as stylized audio transitions into flashbacks, or physical environments that work as understated, apposite frames for the action and the characters' ways of life. In short, it's all of a finely honed piece. Almost too much so, in fact, for if Mankiewicz's approach has any marring weakness, it is almost too smart, too perfectly rounded. The drama is presented with the assurance and confidence of an essay, but one limited by the author's need for smooth expression. There are no doubts or hints of something larger. Mankiewicz does not preach, but because everything has been so thoroughly preconceived, there's little to respond to beyond his intentions. Nonetheless, there are cracks. Start with the situation. How plausible is the setup beyond what is needed to get things going? Just how, as narrator, is Addie able to see how the others behave? While grounded in considerable location photography, the more realistic the settings and characters, the more apparent the manipulation and construction become. Scenes make their points because every character knows everything he or she wants to say and how to say it. Their outbursts are not exactly predictable, but when they occur, there are no surprises either. The Baroque narrative structure assures some unexpected twists in the action, but when they occur, the characters react on cue. Their emotions are only as deep as the story requires. Once you start to recognize these limitations, the realistic execution begins to feel like a reassuring cushion for familiar, if polished, contrivance. It is almost the opposite of thinking of the right thing to say after the fact. Here, everyone is primed with a grievance or a witticism regardless of grimy reality. The verbal dexterity and emotional awareness entertain, but never quite convince. That disconnect is arguably the most interesting thing about Letter, something like the inescapable consequence and limitation of a writer's total control.